Hey amigos, how's it going? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great Friday. Today we're going to be doing ourselves a delicious $10 meal. So we're going to be making beef stew with some delicious horseradish dumplings as well. I'm going to show you how to make them with some lots of lovely veggies. A very straightforward dish. We're also going to do a little bit of roast parsnips as well, maybe served on the side. So onions, garlic. Yeah, I need to find some dried. I haven't got dried thyme. I'll do some dried herbs, but I will put dried thyme on the recipe. Chicken stock's in the fridge. Perfect. What else did I want? I think that was it. Oh, yeah, and a cheeky bit of Marmite, but I can get that out in a bit. So let's make a start on this first. So, what we're going to do, top and tail our onion. What we're going to do, cut it straight in half. Let's get rid of all this cheeky skin. So I'm just going to peel that off. And sometimes if you have like a bit of another layer of skin underneath and it's not looking so great, just take it off. Just take it off. Yeah, still not so good. Okay, take it off as well. Until you're happy, until you found like, you know, you're happy with what you've got. Fantastic, there we go. So just keep peeling it down. Sometimes you get, not bad onions as such, but sometimes you get the outer layers can go a little bit manky, shall I say. So just get rid of them. If you're not happy with the quality, then, you know, that's fine. Sorry. We're going to start slicing the onion down. So we're going to start cutting it horizontally, making as many layers as possible. And the more layers you get out of this, the more finer dice you're going to get out of it. But if you notice, my knife is not going all the way through to the root. It's stopping, like, near the end. So keep that root attached so it'll hold together. Then we'll go down vertically, slice in as many layers as we can so we get a really nice little fine dice. If you don't want it so fine, you know, you don't have to do as many layers as I'm doing. So, you know, ooh, watch your fingers. And then what we're going to do is just turn it sideways and then using your middle finger for a little bit of guidance as well and just slice that up or dice it up pretty much. And then until we get to the root, I'll show you what we're going to do with the root. So pretty much cut that down. So the root is here. It's a little bit on the thick side. Just be very careful, watch your fingers. I'm going to cut that in half. And then we're just going to dice that down very, very nicely. Watching your fingers. So you don't need to kind of run the knife over the onions over and over and over and over to get a nice fine dice. You've done it in one swoop. So it's much easier, it's much... saves you a lot less time, right? Alrighty, so let's grate this down. So I'm going to grate the garlic cloves straight on top of your onions. And if you've got yourself the thyme, which is going to be on the recipe, you want about a teaspoon or so of dried thyme or fresh thyme. Dried thyme is obviously your basic commodities that you should have in your dry stores, which I don't, so I need to fix that. So awesome. A little bit of oil, so vegetable oil. We want about a tablespoon. So put the pan on a medium heat, and we want about a tablespoon, as I said, of vegetable oil or canola oil. So don't want to go too crazy with this. You don't need to get the heat really hot as well. Just want to kind of softly, gently cook down the onions and the garlic. So, you know, don't go too crazy and burn the onions. Just have it on a medium heat. What we're going to do, carefully drop the onions and the garlic in. Just cooking them down. Maybe a little bit too high on the heat, but that's okay. There's plenty of onions here. It'll just kind of cool down a bit. Just going to knock it down a tiny touch. So you just want to gently cook them down. If they caramelize a little bit, that's fine. You just do not want to burn them. So very, very important there. So let's grab my spoon. Give that a little stir around. Fantastic. Now, for the recipe, I would add 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. But I haven't got any thyme, unfortunately, so I'm going to add a little touch of oregano. But you can add both if you want. Half a teaspoon. I'm not going crazy with it. Just a little touch. And also 1 bay leaf as well. If I can get it out. There we go. Magic. So that's gone in there. Perfect. So I just want to basically top and tail these. I'm going for about 4 carrots. Where's my knife? Oh, that's a good point. It's over here. So, so we're going to top and tail the carrots. So what I mean by top and tail basically means take the tops and the tails off. So it's literally what it says in the name. So you take the tops and the bottoms off, like so. Nothing complicated. And then we're just going to give them a little cheeky peel down, taking the skins off. Now, some people, if the carrots are small, people say like, well, why don't you leave the skins on? Usually the skins are pretty bitter, majority of the time. So that's why we usually kind of peel them. But if you don't want to, you can do. But I always recommend peeling them. Okay. you know, whatever you fancy. I'm actually using some butternut squash to pop in there because it's left over, you know. We're going to use it. So I'm just going to cut these down very nicely. Not too thin, not too thick. So they got plenty of time to kind of cook down and soften up. So we're going to give this a good couple of hours to stew down. And now when it comes to the beef stew, you've got two options with this as well. You can either stew it down on the stove, or you can get it all done on the stove and then pour it into a casserole dish and then straight in the oven. Now the one in the oven with the casserole dish is usually a lot better. It cooks down quicker as well, and it develops some really nice flavors. So unfortunately I don't have a casserole dish. It's something I need to go and buy. So we will do this on the stove today. So you got two options in which way you want to go with this, with the stew. But yeah, so we're going to pop the carrots into the pan. So I've just popped the carrots in there, so I'm just going to give them a little bit of a mix round, and they're going to soften up very, very nicely. So keeping that on a lowish heat, cooking that down, and we're going to start sorting out the butternut squash. Right, so take the bottom off the butternut squash. Now, instead of trying to cut the skin off with your knife like this, number one, you're going to lose a lot. And then second of all, the easiest and the more safest way is actually peeling it down. So if you just peel it, you'll save any accidents. You'll save any wastage as well. So just use the peeler. It's quite easy to do. So I'm going to cut this in half. Try to cut this in half. There we go. And then what we're going to do is scoop the seeds out from the butternut squash itself, and we're going to chop it up into cubes. Scoop this out very nicely. Watch your fingers. Just dice this down. Watch your fingers. So what we're going to do, and you can roast this off if you wanted to beforehand. I'm just going to chuck it straight in. So, but you can roast it off if you want to get a little bit more flavour. Maybe do it with a bit of garlic or something. It's entirely up to you. But we're just going to throw it as it is, straight in. Like green Thai curry or red Thai curry. But there's certainly nothing wrong with trying it with the Indian curries as well. They use coconut in other things as well for the Indian curries. But I suppose it depends on what type of curry you want to use. But I don't know if they do that traditionally, though, for tikka, right? Do they do it traditionally? Usually used cream or coconut milk? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm going to take this off the stove. So, carrots, butternut squashes in there. We're going to put a non-stick pan on a medium-high heat, number 6 out of 10. Once that's nice and hot, we'll add a touch of oil. I'm going to get the beef out next, and we're going to dice it while we're waiting for that pan to get nice and hot. We got this on special price. We got some chuck steak here. How much is it? About a pound. About a pound of chuck steak. Absolutely beautiful. Starting to oxidize a little bit because we've got it out, but we got it on special offer, so it was on reduced. It's absolutely fine. So we're going to dice this down. Coat it in some flour, a bit of salt, pepper, and then I'm going to sear it off. Hell of a bargain. Right, so we're going to dice this up to a nice little chunks. Actually, was it $3.70? I've chucked the packet away now. It was under $4. I know that for a fact. So it was a good buy. And people will be like, Chef, how do you find these deals? I'm like, well, I stand there all morning on Saturday waiting for the guy to come out, and he's like, oh my God, not you again. The British chap who's after deals. Not really, I'm joking. I know, I just seem to be finding deals, and I just freeze them down and then just use them when I want to use them. So that meat is beautifully diced. It's good to go. We're going to season it. We're also going to just have a little quick wipe up. I'm going to put this in the wash in a second. Let me just get this pan meat searing first. Before that pan decides to go any hotter than it is. So let me just wipe this up, because obviously I'm very cautious when it comes to high-risk food, especially like raw meat and stuff that you've been chopping. So let's just give it a nice little wipe with some anti-bac wipes. So we're all nice, clean and tidy. And we're all good to go. And obviously don't turn up there and say, I come here every week and they've never seen you before. You know, you're not going to get away with that. But, you know, start turning up and buying things from there. And, you know, eventually they'll give you some deals and stuff because you're a regular customer, you know. Or just have a look in the reduce section. That's another way. A bit of pepper. Where's the pepper? So 2 pinches of salt, a little touch of black pepper as well. So, and then we just need a little bit of flour as well on this. There we go. Oh, your mother-in-law does that quite frequently, chef. So are you comparing me to your mother-in-law? Cheese. Just watch your words now, right? You're going to coat them? Yes. So we're going to coat this into the flour. So we've just added about 2 pinches of flour, and then we're just giving these a nice little coat. There's not too much excess in there. And then what we're going to do is pop some oil in the pan now, and then we're going to start searing these off. Really, really important. Don't overfill your pan. If you overfill your pan, it's just going to stew. It's not going to sear nicely. I know you want to stew the beef, but that's not my point. We don't want to stew it now. We want to stew it later. Kappa. Just a table. That pan is nice and hot. As you can see, the oil and the smoke. So when the oil spreads like that, you know the pan's hot and you can see a little touch of smoke coming off. So that's ready to go. It's nice and hot. So let's get that in there. A little bit more. Don't go too crazy. There we go. Oh, about, well, I'd say 1 minute. 1 minute should be fine. If you already want a nice dark seal, then 2 minutes for sure. Oh, the beef smells fantastic. You should have a nice little searing action going on. Some nice little browning. Beautiful. Beef is looking very beefy. Well, I hope it is, chef. So that's good to go. We'll pop that straight into the pan. A little bit more oil in there, not going too crazy. Obviously making a lot more mess on my stove as always. That's okay, I'll clean it up later on. So just coat those last little bits of beef, making sure there's plenty of flour on there. You don't want like loads of clumps on there, but just so it's going to help thicken the stew, that's all. So let's pop these straight in. We're also going to add chicken stock very shortly, or if you've got beef stock, that'll be fine to deglaze the pan. We're going to add some Marmite to it to help enrichen it, and then we're going to let it cook down. Obviously, we've added a touch of flour and coated the beef in flour as well to help thicken the stew up as well. And if you're not a big fan of like butternut squash or anything like that, you can always change it up for like, you know, potatoes or any other kind of vegetable, to be honest with you. Just going to pour a little bit in here now. There we go. Beautiful. So we're just going to deglaze that beautiful pan. But it's been very cold lately, so it hasn't really helped. Look at that. Look at all that beautiful richness coming off from the beef and the chicken stock. Fantastic. So that's all going in there. All that beautiful flavor. Let's add the rest of this chicken stock and we'll deglaze. I just want to pull off the excess sediment on the bottom. Right. So that's looking great. So that's kind of pretty much simmered down now. So we're going to add that to the mix. We're going to top this up with a touch of water. If you're going to ask how much water, chef, I would say let's go for 650. 650 ml. Let's have a look. Yeah, perfect. 650 ml will be fine. And if you ask me how much chicken stock was in there, I'd say about 1 litre. So it's about as much as you're going to need. So 1.5 litres pretty much is all you're going to kind of really need. Another special ingredient when it comes to gravy, stocks and stews. This little cheeky bad boy, Marmite. It's one of my favourites. Always use it in gravies, always use it in stews. Comes out fantastic. Adds another edge to your stew and gravy. So I'm going to go for 2 teaspoons with this. So about roughly a dessert spoon. That's quite a lot. If you eat that, you'll become more salty than chef. So let's add this to the stew now. So it takes a little bit of time. It won't just kind of come off, so you just got to kind of little mix it in. Pretty much when it's hot, it'll kind of dissolve very nicely. So that's looking great. We're going to let that stew down. We're going to put a little cheeky lid on it as well. And then we're going to turn it right down. Don't have it on too much of a high heat, it's going to bubble away too fast. Oh, that's far too small. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so that's good to go. Let me just have a little wipe down, a little clean. So we're going to top and tail the parsnips. Taking the tops and the roots off. And then what we're going to do, just give them a nice little peel down. And then what we're going to do, once we peel them down, we're going to decore them. Now, when I was talking about decoring, the actual middles, the middle of the parsnip is pretty tough. It's very fibrous. So it's actually not that pleasant. I mean, you can eat them. There's nothing wrong with it. Just for it to be a bit more pleasant, I always remove them. I always have. Because they're quite woody and they're quite fibrous. So if you want to leave them in there, that's fine. That's, you know, your option. But just to kind of make it a bit more nicer or pleasant to eat, just take the cores out. Oh, amazing. Right, let's cut this in half. It's a little bit of a bad bit there, so let's take that off. So what we're going to do, cut straight down the middle in half, and then half again. And then the easiest way to get this core out is pretty much just put your knife on an angle and just remove that core right there. So you've got the nice little bit of parsnip and then the fibrous bit left over. So I'm going to get rid of that. So decoring them, just be very careful with your fingers. Watch your fingers here. And you're just cutting at an angle just to take it off. There you go. And that's all we want. And then we're just going to cut these down nicely into beautiful parsnips. Just little finger-sized ones ready to go. There's our beautiful parsnips. Fantastic. Good to go. So we're going to grab a cheeky pan. I'm going to cook these down. Just want to blanch them. So you want to cook them for about, I'd say 10 minutes from boiling, pretty much. You don't want to overcook them and cook them down to a puree. But, you know, just cook them down. If you're ever making a puree, though, for parsnips, I always recommend to make a nice, like, kind of rich puree for parsnips. Is actually just top it up with some milk and then cook them down till they're super soft. Blend them down with some milk. Oh my god, it's so delicious. It's so rich. But we're not going to use milk today. We're just going to boil these down with water because we want to roast these. We don't want to make a puree. What's it called? The parsnips, they're on. Cooking down very nicely. So once they come up to the boil, I'm going to put a timer on for 10 minutes just to soften them up. Then we're going to drain them and then we're going to pop them into a roasting tray with a little bit of oil and salt and pepper. So I'm chopping up the parsley, stalks and all, because, you know, so much flavour in those stalks. People are like, ugh. Actually, very tasty, full of parsley flavour. So same with like cilantro and stuff. People are like, they pick the leaves off and they don't use the stalks. I'm like, why? Madness. So much flavour in there. And then we're going to start weighing out the beautiful, what's it called? Flour and all the rest of the ingredients. I mean, if you want to kind of add a little bit of tang to it as well, you could also add a little bit of lemon juice into this if you want to. So, you know, you can play around with this recipe quite a considerable bit and the flavors. I think 300 grams is a little overkill, chef. Oh well, too late. We'll see. I might adjust it on my recipe later on. A little pinch of salt. Salty, salty, salt. Bit of pepper. So, horseradish. So, I don't know how hot this is. Let's see how hot this is called Reese's horseradish. Wish I could have got a British one, but let's see what it's like. There's so many different types of horseradish, so this was the one I kind of grabbed, so we'll see. I'm going for 2 teaspoons. Make it 3. About a teaspoon of baking powder. Perfect. 1 egg. Excellent. That's exactly what I wanted. So that's 1 egg. And what else have we got? Parsley's in there, salt, pepper, a little touch of oil, and a little dash of oil. Don't go too crazy with this. There we go. How much is that, chef? about 20 mil. Now the water you just add until it's pretty much bound together, so there's no specifics on how much you use in chef, just add enough until it's bound, pretty much. So let me just mix this all in first. Be patient with it, don't keep adding loads and loads. Before you know it, you might need to add a load more flour, so just do little by little. So. Oh yay big, so just roll these up now. Nice little cheeky dumplings. But there we go. There's our horseradish dumplings. Just beautiful parsnips. So we're going to drain these off. Let's grab my colander very, very quickly. So they've been boiling for about 10 minutes. And yeah, they're pretty soft. They're not like puree soft, but they're like, if you put your finger through them, they'll fall apart, but they're holding their shape, if that makes sense. Some salt. We'll put a little bit of oil in there. We want some salt and black pepper. So I'm going to pop these in now. They're only going to take about 20-30 minutes, just until they're nice and golden. The oven is nice and hot, so we're good to rock and roll. So our horseradish dumplings, they're going to pop these in. Let me switch the cameras, and you guys can check it out. Thank you, Mr. Shifty. Appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate it. So let's turn this down a little bit. Do you know what I've forgotten to do today, amigos? I've totally forgotten to do my Instagram. Totally forgotten about it. Oh, baby. Look at them. Look at those pillows of delightfulness. Oh, a baby. Look at those. They look great. Dumplings, stew. Ooh, looks mighty fine. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Oh, well, we were going to put the parsnips. Oh, I could put them on the side on the dish, right? I don't see why not. Oh my goodness me, this looks good. Gigantic meatballs. They're not meatballs. They're dumplings. Delicious dumplings. That is good. That's real good. My wife's going to be happy tonight. You could. So if you're not a big fan of the squash, you know, that's absolutely fine. Have a great rest of your weekend. Much loves. Thank you for all the support today. I will see you Monday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Much loves. Thank you again. Bye for now, guys and gals.